What's up, nerds? Welcome to Nintendo Pow Block for April 28th, 2017. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deerigan, alongside me, as always, that beautiful, beautiful man, Edward Varnell. Ed, I'm so glad you're here.
I love the Super Mario Brothers 2 jazz music covers that people have been doing on YouTube. So good.
Yeah, I've heard some of those. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Used them for some of my interludes for my podcast. So
nice. World 1-1. Go check it out. And Optional Opinion. You can check that out too. How's it going, Ed? How's your week?
It is going good. Getting ready to go out of town for a Mario / birthday party.
Yes.
And some games. About to actually finish up The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
Just got this final Guardian. I actually got to still get the Master Sword, finish up the Guardian, and then beat Ganon. And then we'll have a big discussion on it.
Yes.
And I need to go to Target because I need to see if they got any video game shirts on sale or something, because I kind of want a Mario t-shirt. I have one, but it kind of shrunk, so I need like a new one.
Yeah, I have one. It's hanging up. I didn't wear it. I was thinking about it. I might wear it next week for the Mario Kart episode because, when this episode comes out, I hope everybody's enjoying Mario Kart, but we're recording it the day before. And I saw that Larry got it early.
Yes, I did.
I'm super jealous.
I wonder probably GameStop, I wonder.
Yeah, a lot of people who ordered it on Amazon got it early too. So
okay.
But yeah, I'm probably gonna go tonight at like 11 to go get it. GameStop's doing a midnight, so I'm gonna take my Switch, try to get some friends, and try to maybe promote the show and stuff. But we'll see what happens. It's a long night. Maybe I'll just fall asleep and go get it before work tomorrow.
We'll actually be setting more switches in the game at my job, which is funny because I was at Target yesterday and they actually had one switch like in the case. Just like, if you want to buy this, you can. I have the money, but I'm just like, I'm gonna wait.
Yeah. Man, it's been a struggle waiting for Mario Kart. I've been playing through. Since I beat Zelda, I've been jumping back and forth between like 6 different games, and I want just that one game. I just want to sit down and just chug through. And
yes,
I mean, Mario Kart's gonna be a time suck for sure. I just want to make sure I get all the gold trophies and all the car parts and stuff. And I want to try out that new battle mode. Looks cool. But I mean, I've been really playing through Spectre of Torment, the Shovel Knight campaign. It's really good. Spectre of Torment's really good. I didn't really know if I was going to like it at first because like the movement's all weird and stuff. But once you realize that your weapon is not only your form of attack, but also your form of traversal throughout the world. Oh my gosh, dude. It makes it so much easier to wrap your mind around. And it feels so good to move through the levels and like all the dangling things that you can like hook shot onto. And so good. It's so good.
I literally need to hunker down and get to more Shovel Knight. Goodness, dude, I need to catch up to where you're at. Yes, still with a Nintendo Switch, but I need to get to where you're at, dude. Because
I mean the Wii U ones are out, right? The
3DS and Wii U, yeah.
So it's really good. You need to play through it after you're done with Zelda. It's good. It's really short. The one thing that kind of bummed me out, but actually the way it fits into the storyline actually works way better than a world map. There's no world map. You go to a mirror inside the castle and it sends you to the levels from there. But the story is actually really interesting. I couldn't have cared less about the story in Shovel Knight. Like I paid attention to it, but this one's actually really kind of interesting and kind of sad, to be honest. But it's cool. I like it. Yeah, if you bought a Switch and are looking for something to play before Mario Kart comes out, Shovel Knight is, man. The main campaign and Spectre of Torment are definitely worth playing through. I'm not huge on Plague of Shadows. It's definitely the weakest of the campaigns, but I mean, I'm sure it's worth going through. I just haven't played through a lot of it yet. So,
well, for me, I just picked up Digimon Cyber Sleuth. A lot of talking. Hey, I'm going to battle everything, anything. Nope, just a lot of talking, and because it's subtitled, you get to hear all the Japanese voices, and you have to read the caption, and it's just like, oh, this is about to be a slug. But it was only $20. I did pick up Far Cry 4 Complete Edition. I told Corey about this. I really got the game cheap. When I brought it, come to find out that the complete edition, which is the season pass and the full game, was cheaper than the regular Far Cry 4. I'm like, happened, but it did. Brand new, mind you. Persona 5, I ain't been playing. I'm getting ready to install Nier and start that. But I've been playing a lot of Ghost Recon Wildlands. I'm going to really try and finish. I think I'm going to end up finishing Wildlands before I do finish up Persona 5. Because the thing about Wildlands is that this is a washing machine game.
Yeah.
It's very wash, rinse, and repeat. And I'm just like,
Yeah. I mean, I was like this close to getting it because my friends were really into the Division and they wanted something else to play that was similar, and that was kind of like where all roads were pointing to. And I was like, I'm gonna hold off because I don't know how this is going to work out. Like, I just don't know how this game's going to work out. And I like Ghost Recon a lot. I liked Future Soldier, or what was the last one? Future Soldier, I think.
Yeah,
was the last one. And I really enjoyed that campaign a lot. But from all accounts, this is like way different than that. And like, it's just a weird experiment for the franchise. But I mean, people seem to be liking it. I mean, it was the #1 game last month, so on NPD. So, I mean, somebody probably likes it.
I mean, I paid like $35 for the actual game. It actually came. It only took 2 days to ship. I think because Wisconsin, so that Amazon, they also ship stuff out. So it probably got shipped out from the Wisconsin Amazon to my house. I think the reason why I paid more was because of the shipping and a little bit of the tax. But like for the game itself, like $35, I'm like, it's not a bad thing. But I was just like, ooh. So Destructoid's review just trashes the game. I'm like, whoa, yikesies. But yeah, much Breath of the Wild is like my go-to game before I go back to Pokemon and stuff. Because I'm about to, like I said, I'm about to do some traveling, so I got to get my 3DS games and stuff ready for that. It's most definitely something I'm really looking forward to. Heard the soundtrack was good, and I was thinking of getting Mass Effect soon, but I might actually wait.
Yeah, but I've been waiting on Mass Effect. I probably. I
think I'm gonna join you in doing it for the summer.
Yeah. Like I told you before, my PlayStation was dying. So I took it into GameStop and traded it in. When I get back from vacation, I'm gonna be probably getting a Pro. Just I don't know if it's worth it or not, but just to kind of future proof myself, I guess I'm just gonna get a Pro and suck it up and probably get Mass Effect with my Pro. Although I don't know if I'm going to get it for Xbox or PlayStation. I have not decided that yet. But I think maybe to test out the new system, maybe that's going to be the way to go. So I don't know. We'll see. Although I do need to play Horizon. I do need to finish Horizon, and maybe with the Pro, maybe I'll just finish it that way. So we'll see.
I really want to do Mass Effect for both systems. I do want to do it for one, and I do want to do it for um PS4. It sounds crazy, but I'm like, I have a lot of people who own the game for that one particular system, and maybe down the line I want to maybe do like multiplayer with them to get maybe a achievement or a trophy or something. So I'm like, might as well get it for both systems. Like I was thinking of leaning more to PS4 because I have the original trilogy on PS3. And I don't really have anything on Xbox One, but I'm just like, I know people who got Xbox One Mass Effect, so I'm probably gonna do it for both systems.
Yeah,
So,
and by some accounts, it actually runs better on Xbox One. For some reason, I don't know how different the architecture is or anything, but like,
I mean, yeah, just let me know which one that you actually make that decision, and then I'll get that version first. Throughout the summer or whatever, because I know like man, still from that direct, Nintendo just like pretty much won the summer with the
I know
with a lot of releases of great titles. Like I really am looking forward to ARMS and Splatoon 2. Like I'm really looking forward to them. So my purchase of the Switch like got a lot, like I already got a backlog of great games that you have that I need to have on my system.
Yeah, so
there's no
this
doubt.
is this is gonna be my May through July. Are you ready? This is my GameStop pre-order list. This is my May through July. Besides Mario Kart. So for Switch, I got Disgaea 5 complete. I've got Ultra Street Fighter 2 at the end of May. ARMS Readout Cave Story in June, Splatoon in July, and Rhyme somewhere in there for the summer for Switch. Yes. So, yeah, my summer is full of Switch games. Not to mention, you know, whatever the new DLC for Zelda is, the Mario Kart stuff. You know, Puyo Puyo Tetris has had my attention all week, and my wife's. I sent you that. I showed you what she was doing.
It's funny that she mentioned that because I think this is a win actually for Sega, because like Puyo Puyo Tetris is like the hot thing that everybody's playing, and it seems that a lot of people really did $10, and we'll probably discuss this later on in the show as one of our topics. People been paying the $10 extra for that physical version.
Yeah, like I think it's really smart because on Switch, for those of you that don't know, the digital copies have to be on parity with the physical copies. Now, cartridges cost more to produce than discs, so a lot of the indie games are $10 or smaller titles, I should say. Not all indie games are, but some of the smaller titles like Puyo Puyo Tetris, Binding of Isaac, those types of titles are $10 more physically on Switch. Now, Puyo Puyo Tetris digitally is $29.99, and the physical version is $39.99. But the physical version gave you 2 keychains and a pamphlet explaining what Puyo Puyo was, because it's not very popular over here, which is really cool. Right. It was some cool trinkets that kind of gave Sega the workaround for that physical copy. Something that doesn't cost a lot to produce, but still gave you an incentive to get the physical copy. Or you can pay the $30 and download it. But man, it's cool. I put the keychains on my keys already. They're really cool.
Yeah, I seen some pictures of it, and because I didn't even know they was doing the keychain part. So when I actually seen it, and I was just like,
it came in a big cardboard box. Remember the Mario Maker box when it came with that art book and stuff? That's the kind of box Puyo Puyo Tetris came in. And I was like, wow, this is kind of an elaborate box for 2 keychains and a piece of paper in a game, but it was cool.
But you know what? I think a lot of people wish companies kind of did like maybe a 3 or 4 page instruction booklet. Like it looks like, you know, for those who are retro, like back in the day, you know, video games came with an instruction booklet to tell you everything. And sometimes they have like artwork in it that you just couldn't find anywhere. And a lot of people
the physical copy of Binding of Isaac came with one that was very Zelda game. So
And I think a lot of people would like that. So if with the $10 added value, if a indie game that did go on cartridge did have like a little trinket or something, or even a download code for music for your iTouch or Android or whatever, and a 4 or 5 page maybe art book or instruction booklet for that, like, if that $10 investment doesn't really cost you anything, and it's ready for the cartridge production, people are down to go back to that old school style of having a video game.
Mm-hmm.
Physical release, I should say. It makes only the game more valuable than just getting it on CD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really like the physical boxes of the Switch games. Some of the games I could see myself just kind of wishing that they were just boxes with download codes, like Tetris. Like, that's a game I'd never ever want to take out of my Switch. I just want it to be there. Mm-hmm. But I do like the boxes. I think they're really cool. And like the bigger releases, I definitely want the physical copies of, because they're just so cool. But I mean, like I said, I've already announced my allegiance to the physical copies on Switch, as long as there are physical copies for those games. And I'm really hoping that Yooka-Laylee gets one, and I'm really hoping that Shovel Knight will eventually get one.
Yeah, I think first with Yooka-Laylee, with all its problems and stuff, it has and stuff. This time, while they're making a game, that they fix some things, and when it actually comes to Switch, and hopefully it does get a physical release, I would be down to pay $50 if they added stuff to it.
Yeah, and I was also thinking, like, once Nintendo starts introducing Virtual Console, what if their Virtual Console games got boxed copies? Like, remember, like the original NES black boxes, or like, what if they redid the Super Nintendo box art for Super Metroid, but put it in a Switch box? Like, what if they sold the physical copies of NES and SNES games for like $15, and then GameCube and N64 games for $20 as physical copies?
Then Nintendo's about to make extra bank.
You can download the Virtual Console games for like $10, like $15. Like, you can go ahead and do that. But if you want the cool box art and the like reproductions of the original instruction manuals, or like, remember Earthbound came with that huge guide box. Like, that box was huge.
That would double Nintendo's whole profit and put Sony. To me personally, I believe that would double Nintendo's profit. It's going to put Sony and Microsoft in a bad position. Now, it might be problematic due to if this rumor of a Super Nintendo Classic comes out, that would be problematic. But if they put out games that work on the Super Nintendo Classic, and let's just say the Super Nintendo Classic does come out and they did stop production, and after that production they did that physical release for the Super Nintendo games, literally buy them. They will become hard to find.
Yeah. Honestly, I would rather spend my money on a physical copy for my Switch than a mini Super Nintendo. Like, if one push came to shove and like I couldn't get one or the other, like, I would much rather have a physical copy of Super Metroid on my shelf sitting next to, Breath of the Wild, or, A Link to the Past, or something like that. I just think, like, I don't know. I was playing Super Metroid on my 3DS last night, and man, I wish that game was on Switch. But like, I was just I was just laying there. I was like, man, how cool would it be if Super Metroid came on a cart? They did a little extra legwork and made it widescreen and pixel perfect mode, and just kind of made it $19.99 for a physical copy. And that extra chart, that extra money could go towards remastering these old games.
I would say, even if they did a little bit of it, I would charge $25. I would literally go to the store right. we was talking about Super Metroid, and they made an announcement if it had a physical release. While during E3, if it said it was getting a physical release, me and Corey both agreed we would lead our podcast. We would lead the stream. We'll take a break and we would head to GameStop and pre-reserve that. Because if we don't do that, reserve the game, by the time it comes out, it's gonna be, the reserves are already gonna be filled, and there's not gonna be enough copies for that. Like, we literally said that. And for them to make it like widescreen or kind of um it didn't really do much, but still charge $25 because it's a physical copy, and it came with a strategy, little mini strategy guidebook, and added some artwork that we have never seen, or even some fan art if there was up to it. That I would pay $25 for that, and that's more.
I would. I mean, like, I think depending on what work went into the games, and like I think I would be like $14.99 for NES games, $19.99 for Super Nintendo games, $24.99 for N64 games, and maybe even $30 for GameCube games. I would like, if you could just make all those games physical and maybe put that widescreen mode on a lot of these games, like, dude, I would have no problem paying money for these games. That yeah.
And games like and something and those you just make me so happy talking about this, because those retro players like myself are going to a game store and getting those games. So to have that feeling again, I'm all for it. I'm literally all for it. It's good business for GameStop. If they're able to do reserves for it, it's good business for Nintendo because physical is, I mean, not physical, digital is fine, but I think it would show more, give Nintendo an impression that you have more gamers who want your older titles, so you'll see more of the support, and the people are buying a Nintendo Switch to get those physical titles, and hopefully it stops emulation and stuff like that, or lowers emulation, I should say. That, you know, and if people want to call it a remaster and be like, well, I play these old games, I'm just like, yeah, but people want that physical release. If a lot of work, some work got put into it, because not everybody still owns those old Super Nintendo or GameCube or N64 carts and CDs. They don't own that no more. So to have that once again for your system that you could take on the go and still play on the big screen, I'm down for that.
So this kind of leads into our next kind of topic. I was going to do the news, but this is kind of a good segue anyway. We were talking last night. We had two really good discussions last night. We kind of thought we would bring it to the podcast today.
Yes.
Nintendo has been very kind of, I don't want to say stingy, because I think stingy is the wrong word. I think maybe careful is a better word of what kind of games make it onto the eShop, and they've slipped one or two times, like that Witch motorcycle flying game. But
goodness.
Yeah. But for the most part, they've been kind of good at curating what indie games and what titles get put on the eShop that aren't AAA published, if you want to call it that. There's been some confusion going around about a couple games, and some indie developers have even come out and said that Nintendo, even though the system is easier to develop for, getting your game on the console is actually a little bit harder than you would think it would be for a big time console maker. Let's see. There were a couple of quotes I wanted to read. But basically, some anonymous indie developers are saying that Nintendo is kind of taking their sweet time getting back with them about getting dev kits, about kind of getting their games on the platform. And I think it's because Nintendo is really watching what they're pushing right now. And Nintendo, this is their platform first and foremost, and they're kind of trying to push their games on this platform first and foremost, or games they kind of see fit working on this platform. So what while I look for these quotes, man, I wish I could find these quotes. What do you think about all this?
Well, I know when we was discussing it, I kind of felt like, just give like people, the developers, just give it time. It's good that we want to see a lot of support from the system. And it is kind of sad that a lot of indie developers can't get on it or release a game just yet. Because this is the first year, or first couple of months that out. I think they want to space out their games. I think they don't want to flood the eShop in the market from developers that have unproven track records. But even if there are some developers who have good proven track record, their game might not be suitable just yet. So they might keep it in mind because they're probably getting tons of requests and stuff, and you don't want to have close to 75 indie games. Those 75, maybe 15 actually be worth a purchase. You don't want to flood the system with that. So I think they just want to space everything out. I think those indie developers, it is frustrating. But you have Microsoft, you have Sony. If they're welcoming, go ahead and put your game on there. And let Nintendo see first how that game does on that platform. And maybe later on down in the line, following next year, that it might seem old or something, but enough outcry for it, it might come to the Switch platform. It's kind of weird saying that, but sometimes if a game doesn't feel ready or feels like it's needed to be on Switch, but you still want it, I say just wait. So I think a lot of indie developers just need to wait, give it a year, get the system a year, let their planned content come out, and maybe at a time when Nintendo really needs games to fill in the gap, hopefully they keep you guys keep in contact and be like, okay, now we're interested in your game to fill in this gap, because now we're able to market and push your game.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe give it a amiibo, or maybe give it a physical release and really help promote your game and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have 3 quotes here from anonymous indie developers, and that tweet was going around a couple days ago about Dan Adelman calling Nintendo douches because they weren't they could have had Axiom Verge ready as a launch title for Switch, and Nintendo kind of never got around to getting back with him, although it is rumored that it still might be coming to Switch eventually. But these anonymous indie devs said, this is the first one: I've had a long-standing relationship with Nintendo for many years. We've gone out to eat and drink multiple times, and I consider most of them my friends. I've always brought my A game to Nintendo platforms and been responsible for some of the highest rated games on their systems, so it had always been a good relationship. I reached out to them very early on, back when the Switch was still called Project NX, and people didn't even know if it was people didn't even let me know if it was a handheld or a console. It was a bit of a slap in the face. After all the years of partnership, I would get a very formal corporate response to my emails. The second one was, there's no doubt that Nintendo systems have been plagued by shovelware over the years, a la Wii, but Nintendo's solution to this is very broken. First, they're being inconsistent. Their stated policy is that they are not allowing any ports, and yet half of the games making it their way to the system are ports. a la Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart 8. Second, because the people in charge of making the decisions and marketing, people with no experience on the development side, they don't know how to evaluate games that are still in development. They look at a game that's 20% complete, and then they can't extrapolate what it will be like after an additional year or two of development. This third and final quote I have here says, getting a Wii U dev kit took a week of work, basically nothing. While it is impossible to get our hands on a Switch dev kit, we've had to go to multiple publishers for it. Our only other complaint is about under communication with Nintendo. Professionalism is there, maybe too much professionalism. There's no doubt about it, but hardware access was way more painful than it needed to be, for sure, especially compared to getting an Xbox One or PS4 dev kit. Outside of that, everything else makes sense and is in line with industry standards. The Switch is extremely easy to develop for, and we can't wait to put our game out. So
okay, can I address all 3 points from my opinion? Okay. So the first point with the guy saying he had a good business, he has a good business relationship with Nintendo, or a guy or girl or whatever. At that time, he has to realize that Nintendo stated this. They don't want to talk about the NX. They don't want the talk of, and it's party policy, party NDAs, contracts and stuff. They don't want people outside of Nintendo knowing about this system and ruin it. Or what happens if you get drunk and spill the beans to someone, and then all that information now is on Twitter and social media. So they're being very precautious. They want to bring out they wanted to bring the Switch out with a big surprise, really marketing this system well, because they believe in a product that they're doing something very innovative. They're taking what they learned from the past and try to bring it into the now and make it better. So you so even though you have a good business relationship and everything, you got to realize that, what, I see it from their point of view. I wouldn't want, my next game that I'm making for whatever console or even PC, I don't want it to be spilled out if I'm really trying to do something big that's kind of on the level of Minecraft, and then someone finds out about it, and then my whole information about what I was trying to do and what I had planned for it goes down the drain because someone yacked when they found out about it. So I think, even though he has a good relationship with them, just give it time. The second one dealt with, what was the second one again? I'm sorry.
Where'd it go? Let's see. The second one was crap. I missed it. There it is. Nintendo systems have been plagued with shovelware over the years, but Nintendo's solution to this is broken. They've been very inconsistent, stating that they are not allowing any ports, and yet half of the games at launch are ports. Okay. Speaking of Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8, Binding of Isaac.
Okay, let's address this. The ports with Breath of the Wild. Nintendo, that's the old Nintendo property on the own Nintendo system. If they want to port it to that other system and make it a big splash, they can. Why? Because Nintendo owns that. Even with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, that's their business. If they don't want ports on the system, because they don't want to have it where for the first 5 to 6 months, like I said, continue to say, look at Xbox One and PS4 when they came out, half of those games that came out were ports. We didn't really get original content for that game. For PS4 was Knack and
Killzone.
And Killzone, and then out of those two, Resogun was the number one game that people was playing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and part of that though is because Resogun was free.
Right. And there was just a lot of ports and remasters that came out. And, Nintendo was probably trying to get away from that because a lot of people were discouraged that, why do I have these next gen systems and all you guys are fitting my line with our ports? So if Nintendo is porting anything, they're porting their own stuff. Skyrim is a test game.
Mhm.
They want to see how, but they just want to see how well that does on a Nintendo platform. NBA 2K17, or is it 17 or 18? I think you
18.
say it. Or 18. Okay, that's going to be a new game. They want to see how that does on Nintendo platform. Definitely with with its portability. Anything outside that, okay, Iron Setsuna, that didn't come out to Xbox One. But
Yeah.
because Square Enix has such a good relationship with Nintendo and being one of their partners and making Square Enix money with Bravely Default, I see more business done correctly on a Nintendo platform than any other system.
To me, this quote is just kind of like a lost in translation thing. Like maybe they're saying, like, if you're gonna put a game, like an older game, on our platform, make sure it has some new content. And like Shovel Knight is kind of the perfect example of that, where like, we got Spectre Knight campaign first on Switch. Like that's kind of where I'm coming from this. And the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus has a ton of extra content that the other versions don't have yet. Mario Kart 8 has that extra battle mode and extra characters and stuff that the Wii U version doesn't have. I'm not saying like all of this is wrong. I think I can see both sides of the argument. If Axiom Verge did come to Switch, that would be kind of like the first straight indie port, from another system. So those kinds of things, I can see the argument from both sides, but at the same time, I think Nintendo is not as willy-nilly as Xbox and PlayStation. They're just like, because you look at the PlayStation Store and that thing has so much garbage on it that's like, A, how do you allow stuff like this to be on your platform? And B, why is it hiding so far down here? If it was worth playing, don't you think they would promote it in some fashion? Whereas Nintendo, everything that's come out on the eShop so far has had because on the Switch, there's a My News section on the left-hand side when you turn the console on. There's either been a trailer, screenshots, description of the game, and or a link to the store to either A, purchase it, or B, add it to a wish list. And that's smart on Nintendo. And once you get like, because you look at the PlayStation blog, sometimes there's like 15 to 20 things coming out that week. There's no way Sony can promote that many things in 1 week and still be on top of their own AAA stuff.
Dude, they don't even highlight the deals. You could go to the deal section on PlayStation 4 and they don't even tell you what the deal is. You gotta search for that. And it's just like, really?
Yeah. And like to me, Nintendo wants Nintendo to be Nintendo. They don't want Nintendo and this, Nintendo and that. I think, we discuss all the time how we think the Switch should be Nintendo sprinkled out with a bunch of indie games filling the gaps.
Right.
Nintendo doesn't have any gaps right now, right? So like that's maybe they are being constructive about how they schedule getting these indies out as well. Maybe they're not communicating because they're still trying to figure out how their schedule's going. And Nintendo has always put themselves first over every third party. Like even way back in N64 and GameCube games, like Nintendo has always put themselves before third party, even all the way back to the NES with like, you can only publish 5 games a year on our platform, which is why Konami went out and created Ultra to publish Metal Gear.
If you know that your game is coming out on a Nintendo platform, then you do the marketing. If you find that, okay, Nintendo, we got a release date to view the game, does it work? And it'd be like, yeah. Now, if they say that, hey, we want to include your game in one of our Nindy Directs, then you know what? After they show the Nintendo Direct and stuff, then you start marketing it and you start talking about it and you get it planned out and pacing and stuff like that. You know, just like you said, Corey, Nintendo has to do the stuff for Nintendo. They got to get their own stuff. Why should they balance their stuff and your stuff? And you barely do anything besides develop the game and expect them to do all the marketing and stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you want something to notice about your game, they have Amiibo. Put some money into making Amiibos. Make a art book and stuff. You know, team up with some of these sites and stuff like Fangamer or anything like that, and get some of that merchandise and stuff out. Like you have different avenues to, yes, and I know it's a budget reason with money and everything, but hype up your own game. If it's coming to a Nintendo platform, like fill in the gaps for you to actually do something to be on that same level of Nintendo when it comes to marketing your game.
Yeah. I think I honestly think, you know, Nintendo is trying to get this console right. You know, they are trying really, really hard to make good on this console, and there's going to be some downfalls, you know, through this process, and them putting their games first is, you know, unfortunately a downfall for some of these AAA or some of these third party and indie games. But at the same time, I feel like Nintendo might be scheduling out their first parties so they can better promote these indies when it's time to put these games out on their platform.
Right. And
that's honestly my opinion. And like, I know people are going to like, sometimes people say we drink, you know, whatever, but like I honestly feel like Nintendo's scheduling their stuff out. They're scheduling their major third party stuff out, and you know, they want to make room for these indie games so they can properly promote them, because they see Xbox's mistakes, they see PlayStation's mistakes trying to promote certain indie games that aren't necessarily working for a lot of them. Like you saw Eco come out today, and like they've been promoting it on the eShop nonstop today because, you know, they have a trailer, they have a link to the eShop to buy it, and like if that came out on PlayStation or Xbox, like that game would get drowned out so fast because of everything else that's coming out on there. I just think Nintendo's trying to be smart on how they promote certain indie titles.
Right, and even with Kamiko, people have been promoting and talking about that game, and it's only been out a week or two in Japan. For a game in Japan, who for a country like that really are not, I don't think are too big on indie games, but for that to come to America, and it's crazy that he was just like, they don't want to do nothing about ports. Okay, that's fine, but if they don't want to do a lot of ports and stuff, then make a new game for it. It's a new system. Or the port of your game is past like 2 or 3 years, don't nobody want to still play that.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do anything interesting.
Yeah. And like I would really like to see some of these games make their way to Switch. Like, I mean, I've talked about this 1,000 times, like Hyper Light Drifter and Axiom Verge, I think are perfect candidates for Switch ports. But those games are like, I mean, Axiom Verge is a year old by now, right? And like, I mean, I know he made that game. It took him like 4 or 5 years to make that game on his own. Years. And so like, you know, I understand that, you know, one guy making a game for 3 to 5 years it takes a long time to make a game that good and that, you know, polished and stuff, and then getting it over. But at the same time, like, you know, the Switch is looking for new experiences, not something. And that was the biggest complaint about Wii U, which I think is what they are trying to avoid as well. Is like, you guys complained that, you know, we gave you Mass Effect 3, which was a year old, Batman, which was a year old, Darksiders, which was 6 months old, you know, Assassin's Creed 3, which was 2 months old by the time the system came out. And so we're trying to avoid that same conundrum where you guys complained that you got year-old ports on the system. So maybe that's another direction they're aiming. They're trying to avoid that mistake as well. So.
Right. And you have 2017. You have a whole year to get a couple of games ready to go for next year because they're like the indie development. I think right now it's just focusing on games that could get out for 2016. But if you can start planning stuff for 2017 and working on that and getting Nintendo excited or invested into it, do that. I mean, we already got from now until December, we have enough planned for Nintendo content, for indies and for Nintendo themselves, and maybe third party. And maybe it's smart that your game comes out next year because we don't want it to get missed or thrown under the barrel by other great titles.
Mm-hmm.
Like look at what third party has to deal with throughout the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Mafia, Arna 2, Titanfall, like even Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty, like they all had to fight against each other to make to make sales and stuff.
Yeah,
now people are just
which is why Nintendo and Sony were smart by releasing their flagship titles in February and March instead of in the November rush for all these third-party positions. And like I would have been a little worried about Mario if the Switch wasn't selling so well right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody is still so excited over this thing. But like Mario's Mario. Mario is going to sell systems, and it wouldn't surprise me if they bundled Mario in at some point.
Right.
Or had a Zelda bundle or a Mario Kart bundle for the holiday or something like that. But I think, I heard this on another show a couple weeks ago where maybe the new first party, like the new window to release giant first party games is the spring. And then you release all the third party stuff in the fall. Maybe that is the new way to do it. And like, I think that's what Xbox and PlayStation are moving towards. But you look at the rest of this calendar year for Nintendo, and like, we don't even know what's coming after E3 yet. And like, we already have Fire Emblem. And I saw another report that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is still confirmed to be coming out this year, a Western English translated release.
And do you want a port? And do you want a port of your old game to go get something like that? And with Mario,
yeah,
where it's going to get where that like your game is going to get buried.
Mm-hmm. The only places you can release ports of old games right now on the Switch would be, July or August. Well, actually, really, yes. The end of July and in the front part of August, because at that point, Splatoon is what, mid-July? End of July. Somewhere
mid-July, like July 16th, I think.
So you only have that August window, which is now being taken up by like, Shadow of War, and at the beginning of September, you got Destiny, you've got Marvel vs. Capcom, and then you get into the October and November slugfest.
And this would be my thing. If you really want to like really bring some of your old ports, Black Friday, get your old ports on the Switch for Black Friday that Thursday, so that people could get your game for cheap and stuff. Like take $5 off for it and just be like, Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Our game is now released on we're not before Black Friday on this Thanksgiving. We were finally able to bring Axiom Verge or whatever old game to the system, and we got it cheaper for this one day only, so that you guys, in case when you're waiting for the turkey to cook, you can play our game.
Yeah, and like as much as I want Axiom Verge on Switch, like if Nintendo announces Metroid at E3 this year, I'm forgetting all about Axiom Verge. Like, I'm sorry. I'll play that on my PlayStation 4 or my Vita, which is still broken. I already own that game in 2 different places. Like, I would happily support Tom Happ and him and that team trying to put this on Switch at some point. Like, I would totally buy that game 2 or 3 more times if I could play it somewhere else. But like, if they announce Metroid, like Axiom Verge is my Metroid for PS4. Like I don't really need it on Switch, but if they announce Metroid at E3, like I'm forgetting about Axiom Verge because we're getting Metroid. Like that's just my opinion, and I'm sorry, but I've played Axiom Verge all the way through twice, and as much as I love that game, if they announce Metroid, I've already played it. I'm forgetting about it. I'm putting my money towards Metroid, and that's no fault of his, but like that game is really old news by now. And you know, if Nintendo's trying to push new experiences, that's where I'm going to put my money.
Right, and everybody already gonna own the Wii U physical version because that's gonna kind of be the collector's item. People are gonna expect if it does come to Switch, they're gonna expect the physical copy. B, they're gonna expect it to have almost the same stuff as the Wii U physical copy with the special edition, and hopefully a little bit more. Yeah, it might be $10 or $15 more, but I'm just like, but you know, if you already own the Wii U version, yes, it's good to play that. You want to play that game on the go, but how much of this game are you waiting for to come to one console?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like I wouldn't. For me personally, I would not have wait for Switch for Axiom Verge to come. If I was shocked and surprised about seeing it on PS4, and I really want to support that game, I would go and buy it on PS4 and be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and like a lot of people use their Vitas for indie games too. Like that's part of the reason why I want to get a new Vita is because, you know, a lot of those games came to Vita if you bought the PS4 version. And I think Axiom Verge, though it doesn't run great on Vita, I think it's a perfect handheld game, which is why I want it on Switch. But at the same time, like I can play it on my Vita.
Right, and there's probably going to be tons of other Metroidvania games that equal the same good quality as Axiom Verge, or even a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Axiom Verge is so good.
It is. It really is good. I mean, it really is good. I won't deny that. But like with the portability, with the port stuff, I think when the Switch came out, there was more original titles than ports, and there's still more original titles than ports.
Yeah, like I mean, I think a lot of games are getting a Switch effect too, where like these are games that people would kind of pass on at first, but like a game like Snake Pass, people want to play it on Switch because that's where it feels right, you know. I still think, you know, they're still getting those passes. Like Wonder Boy, I think probably sold best on Switch because people want games to play on Switch first of all, but it just feels natural playing it on a Nintendo system, even though it's a Sega game. Sorry, don't want to start that 90s war again, but.
And would you like to see a Nintendo Direct with half of the in all ports of games that you already play? Like, who wants to see that? And then you see around Twitter and other social media that Nintendo Direct was disappointing because I already owned that. I already played that. I got that on my PC. In fact, the game right now on PC is 50% off. Like, who wants to see that? Nobody doesn't want to see that. And definitely if you're a new owner of a Switch, don't nobody want to see your old title of an indie game on that system.
Yeah, the only way like I could see them doing like, hey, you know, here's some of your favorite games from our old systems coming to you. Like if they decided to port some more Wii U games over, which you know kind of gets into our next topic a little bit, but you know, if Nintendo just kind of edged a little section of a Direct that said, hey, did you not own a Wii U, but you own a Switch? Here's some cool games you missed. And like, you know, maybe you throw Axiom Verge in there. Maybe you throw Shantae in there. Maybe you throw, you know, Shovel Knight's DLC stuff in there. And then you throw in, you know, Captain Toad. You throw in Smash Brothers, you throw in, you know, these are games that maybe you missed on Wii U. We're going to bring them to Switch, but you don't spend that much time on them. You spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes on that.
And how about this? if you so want so many ports on the Switch, how about you try to find a way to get in touch with indie developers in Japan who games never came to America, and you work on the
Yeah.
localization and you port those games onto Nintendo Switch.
Mhm.
It's so that yeah, it is support, but it's a new title to us American players.
But that kind of does get into our next little topic here, I guess, is like, unfortunately, a lot of people didn't own a Wii U. And I think there are some can't miss experiences on that system. And like, I kind of feel like we're going to get Pikmin 4, so Pikmin 3 port wouldn't really
Sense.
be a viable port.
Mhm.
Smash Brothers will probably come in some form. We're getting Mario Odyssey, but I still think Mario 3D World should get some sort of like either Mario 3D World 2 or a straight port of that game, or that and Captain Toad Treasure Tracker ported on the same cart, like those two things. So like, I don't know. How do you feel about Wii U games making their way to Switch? Like that you may or may not see a second version of these games on Switch, but like, how do you feel about Wii U games making their way to Switch?
If there's a way to um fix them and improve them, uh that will be able to reach a broader audience, then I'm fine with it. Mario Kart 8, because it's so well, um getting a port of that and doing a lot of improvements and stuff makes a good business sense, to help fill in the gap while they, the team make a new game. Um realize that Nintendo is not like really known in doing like ports or remasters of their old titles. You know, usually they put it out, whatever it does, and they want to start working on their next title. They want to start doing the research and development, finding out the engine, getting ideas and storyboards. They want to do all of that. If it's worth the investment, then go ahead and do it. I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me. But for new players who haven't played those old games, you're still able to find a Wii U and play those old titles. But if it's gonna feel like it will be only a hand select of decent titles or great games that should come onto the system. Doesn't make good business sense at this point in time. It's not a big hit of a title, but you know you can always wish that. I think Nintendo and all those other companies would rather have their next game onto the platform. So yeah, it's good to see that we get a Bayonetta 2 port to the Switch because we want to play that game on the go. But I would rather see a new Bayonetta come to the system instead of a port.
What if they ported Bayonetta 2 this year and gave us Bayonetta 3 next year?
I would just say fine. If they want to do that, it just depends on how much they're going to price it then. Because I would rather get a Bayonetta 3.
Well, let's say like Bayonetta 2 on Switch would be $40, and then Bayonetta 3 would be $60.
I would rather just wait because you already still got physical copies of Bayonetta 2 on Wii U for $30. So
yeah, I would, to your previous point where Nintendo doesn't like to port their stuff, I would almost argue that they kind of are the originators of porting stuff with Super Mario All-Stars on Super Nintendo. I mean, they did like remasters. I wouldn't call them ports. And like you look at the Wii U, it had Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD. Shoot, they had a couple other games too that they're ported to the system. But
when it comes to like remasters and ports and stuff, Nintendo, you don't normally see a company like that doing something big like that. Like when you think of porting or remasters, you think of more third party or kind of indies, but you think more third party. If you bring something like to the Switch to give it a new life and stuff, okay, yeah, Bayonetta 2 is a sure bet because that game's hopefully sold well. It got Game of the Year, and for people who missed it, who really wants to play an action game like that, because the system needs an action game like that, Bayonetta 2 would be spot on. That would be the best decision to make. I'm like, I think Xenoblade Chronicles X, if they fixed a lot of the problems in that game and they needed a big RPG before Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out, I would do that. I would go that route.
Yeah.
I think it, like, if a game was able to connect to a new version, then yeah, I would be fine with it. So yeah, like Bayonetta 2 this year, and then Bayonetta 3 next year, I'll be fine with that. That would be cool.
I guess it's kind of on a person to person basis too, I guess, because like I would love to see Mario 3D World and Bayonetta 2 come to Switch, but like a game like I said earlier, like Pikmin, like I feel like we're gonna get Pikmin 4 on Switch, so I don't think we really need that. Or like,
yes,
I think a perfect game for a port to Switch would be Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, because even people that bought Wii U's didn't own that game. And I think that game is just an awesome little puzzle game for a handheld experience.
Yes, to take that game like that on the go, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like, there's gonna be games that are coming or getting a second iteration, like Mario Maker is clearly going to make its way to Switch at some point. Smash Brothers clearly going to make their way to Switch at some point, and we're getting Xenoblade 2.
And you can still add, you could add that amiibo that came with Captain Toad, or your amiibo of Bayonetta when it comes out can work now into Bayonetta 2, and they'll give you something special. Like if they release something with more new amiibo to come out, or current amiibo to come out, that's already out, then yeah, port that game over to the system.
Mm-hmm. And like I don't think we need like another Donkey Kong Country at some point, because I feel like we're going to get a third one for Switch.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to see. I mean, it's really hard because I can see a lot of these games getting sequels, but then the games that probably won't get a sequel, I wish would get ported. Or I don't know. I just feel like there's some games that people missed, and I would love to see them on Switch. I don't know. I'm still in that mode where I want everything on Switch, and like I really don't care how it gets there.
I think when like not portability, because that's a console kind of thing. I think with the port that's gonna come to the Switch and stuff, it's gonna feel like to fill in the gap.
Mm-hmm.
Game comes up. So
it's weird. It's weird though, because I would think that Nintendo would want to put all their ports out before all their big games come out, and that's like right now, because I mean all we have right now is ARMS and Splatoon, and then August is kind of dry. But then you get into September, October, November, you clearly have Fire Emblem Warriors, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and then Super Mario Odyssey. But that's not to mention the Pokemon game that's probably coming this year.
But you probably, for Nintendo, you would want your teams to work on that latest title to make the quality up to snuff, and not to say that you can't spare people to work on those old titles to port over. But if we're making a big game that we know that we believe in, that's going to sell very well over a port, I'd rather keep team members on my team to make that game better and the quality up to snuff. So when we do market it, the game does come out, you can see how great work and care was put into this game than it was just a port.
Mm-hmm.
Just wants to everybody focus on there. Now, what they could do is always like outsource it. If a company who could make work on a port and really do a good job as the same level with like a Nintendo quality in mind, and Nintendo kind of steps in to check to see if it's up to snuff, like they did Wind Waker HD, then yeah, go ahead and have outsiders do those kind of porting games. But within the company, they're going to be focusing more on their latest newest title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go out and see if Toze or Konami could work on this kind of game and port it to the system. Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to be fair, I'm just kind of arguing for the sake of argument. I would much rather have new experiences on Switch as opposed to ports. Like that, I'm doing that for the sake of the argument and the sake of the podcast. But at the same time, if you wanted to add Wii U games to Virtual Console, even, like, I think that'd still be a good
I would be down for that
spot for them. Yeah.
Literally,
there's some games you would really have to rework, though, because some of them utilize the microphone in the Wii U gamepad. Some of them utilize that second screen, stuff like that. But I mean, there's workarounds. You could totally do that. It's somehow
like I would love to have Yoshi's Woolly World, not the Poochie version, but the Wii U version on Switch. Yeah, you could update the graphics if you want to, but I'm like, I want to put my headset on and listen to this on the go. I want to hear this beautiful soundtrack on the go if I can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'll still pay the $40 if you want to charge me $40, because that's what I pay for the original version. I'm down to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it'd be nice to have, like, I don't know, it would be a totally different argument if the Wii U sold better than it did. Like, different argument. But right. At the same time, it's like, I mean, you look at the Wii and people aren't clamoring for Wii games on their Switch, but like a lot of people who are diehard Nintendo fans who believed in the Wii U and saw the good in the Wii U are clamoring for Wii U games on Switch because those games were so good. And like it's like I've always said, when Nintendo's backs up against the wall, that's when they're their most creative. And I still think, the GameCube era and the Wii U, I think the Wii U is going to be looked at very similarly to the GameCube. Is like that's when they had, maybe not their biggest games, but they had their most creative games.
It's when it comes to GameCube and when it comes to Wii U, it always comes down to regret that those gamers didn't play it. Mm-hmm. You have a mindset of some kind of expectation that, Nintendo's not like this, and when you get to an expectation that Nintendo needs to be something like the others, like a competitor or something, that's when you lose the focus of that game. And then when it comes to a point where it's like, well, you know what? I think I should have played that game. You realize that if you got that chance to play that game and you've been proven wrong, that you know what, something different. And I, as a gamer, shouldn't have to try to compare them to doing something like their competitors, because if they try to, I wouldn't got that same experience that I'm getting right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this wouldn't feel like the Nintendo that I know Nintendo is.
Yeah.
People who wish that they played Eternal Darkness when it came out, and there's people who wish that they own the GameCube. There's people who now Zombie U, people like last year wanted to play that game in October, and people who played it on PS4 and Xbox One, they said this does, or no, PS3 or 360, they said doesn't feel well like it does on the Wii U version. And people who end up playing it on the Wii U.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
People who played it on the Wii U got a new experience of survival horror.
Mm-hmm. Like and every review that came out of every other version of Zombie U after the Wii U version said, if you want to play this game, find it on Wii U. Like every single review of the Xbox One and PS4 ones said that. And like I agree, because that's what made the game interesting, is that the gamepad, it's still probably the top 5 uses of the gamepad on that system. Is like that was your backpack, and you couldn't pause, and that was the big draw of the game. Is like you had to look away from the screen to dig through your backpack for inventory.
Right. And I think people who like, even though those Switch games, even though those Wii U ports came to Switch, and if you played it, it might make you want to be like, I really want to experience this on the Wii U and see if I could tell the difference. Like, if that does something to you with the port, I'm all down for that. For it to be like, yeah, this game is making me want to double dip and find the original version and see if the experience is the same or not.
Yeah. I still think these are, I guess, quote, arguments are worth having because they're fun to like see what Nintendo can do, and and what they can do and what they could do and stuff. But like the Switch is so popular right now, and like there's a couple things that came out this week of their financial reports. Like, you know, the Switch has sold 2.74 million units worldwide. You know, Zelda sold across both platforms almost 4 million units. You know, it's doing extremely well. It's doing better than the Wii and the Wii U at this point.
Yes.
Not that really says a lot, but like it's still an interesting piece of information. We'll have this conversation again a year from now. But it's still interesting to have these discussions because, you know, does this success mean Nintendo will put more resources into building more games for the system, or are they going to put more talent behind the games that are already in development? Like, I would love to see
they're going to put more talent.
I would love to see the Switch be the first console in a long time where we have your franchises at play. You know, I would love to see Metroid. I would love to see F-Zero. I would love to see another Star Fox game. I still think Star Fox Zero has something interesting about it. There's something there. It's not perfect, but there's something there that's worth checking out at least.
I think they're going to put new talent. Because I think, you know, in order for Nintendo to evolve, they got to get these new directors in front of, you know, in front of the media, in front of us gamers, so we can see what new ideas and experiences that they can have, and not really say this is the new Nintendo, but continuing that Nintendo tradition. That,
I mean, it kind of is though a new Nintendo, right? I mean, they have a lot of their younger talent promoting the system, doing the directs, developing these games. You know, it's not a brand new Nintendo, but you can see Nintendo starting to evolve as a company, which is exciting.
I mean, well, yeah, I feel like you could see the teaching of Miyamoto, Tezuka, Anuma, and all these other directors and stuff in the past. You could see their teachings with these new developers, with these new directors and stuff. You could see that, you know, the spirit of Nintendo that they had is in these new directors. And you guys, when you get to our age and you become well known, we will hope that you guys will continue to pass this on and still be able to make the games that you want to make. People
and
keep loving Nintendo for what they do.
And like, you know, this is the first time Miyamoto and Anuma and that old, I guess what you would call the old guard of Nintendo, they didn't really have anything to do with the development of the hardware. It was Iwata, and then after he passed away, it was this younger group who kind of took that idea and kind of made it, you know, their own. And we're seeing it in Super Mario Odyssey. Like, that's going to be the first real test of these new directors taking on a giant franchise. Like, mainline Mario game, this is a major title for the Switch, and it's being developed by this younger team, which is really exciting. And I guess like Splatoon was kind of like the game that was produced by a younger talent, like you know, Solo without somebody in it, and that was a huge success. And Arms looks to be that way, but in terms of the biggest franchises in the world, Mario Odyssey is going to be the first game developed by this young talent without Miyamoto, without Onuma, without Iwata, without all these overhead like the old guard.
They're the producers, so they're going to overlook things, and they're going to want to make sure that they could come in and help fix, but still let you guys, but still let them do what they need to do to create their version of the game, not create the old producers' ideal of the game, but be able to create their own. Of course, we would love to see a new game from Miyamoto. Of course, we would love to see a new game from Tezuka. I'm probably getting that wrong. We would probably love to see a new game from Onuma. We would love to see them create some new IPs and stuff, and still have their old games be done by newer talent. I would love to see a new game from Miyamoto that not saying that he was inspired by, but maybe something he felt like he wanted to do. And he got a new team of people to help him bring out this thing where Miyamoto is the director, and you'd be like, yep, this is a Miyamoto game, and he still got it with them. Regardless of what you think about Star Fox Zero and stuff, Miyamoto still could, I think personally, still could make some of the best Nintendo games today. Onuma, I think, even if he doesn't make another Legend of Zelda game, I think he could come in and make something worth that he always wanted to make, and make it his own. Still feels like it's a game that's directed by him and made, that he thought of, and he worked with a team to show them how Nintendo makes games. And I think it still could be a strong, good title that a lot of us would be excited to play.
Yeah, and I'm just having this conversation now, like the future of Nintendo, even though we kind of have the 2017 roadmap. I am so excited for the future of Nintendo and this system, and I'm excited to see if some of these 3DS experiments ever end up coming over, like Federation Force or Ever Oasis, or a smaller Pikmin side-scrolling game after Pikmin 4. I still want those 3DS style experiments in games. I still want those on Switch. But to see these major franchises being taken on by the younger teams, which they've produced some good games, like the new Super Mario Brothers games are great, and we've gotten some great work out of them, but to see them actually flourish with Mario Odyssey and beyond, that's exciting. That really is exciting.
Yeah, and we're not seeing that from Microsoft or Sony. We're not seeing young talent come in. Yeah, if we see young talent, it's an indie game. Pretty fresh. Make a God of War. I want to see someone bring Tumba back and be somebody, somebody young. I would love to see Gears of War 4, not just go to a different developer and who have the person who worked on it. I want to see someone young. I want to see a female director work on Gears of War 4 and see how her interpretation of that game. Maybe it don't have to start Marcus Phoenix. Maybe it could start a whole new character, an all-female character, or animals and stuff. I want to see what Microsoft and Sony would do if they had young talent to make some of their some of their well-known IPs. Let's see that. And I think that we're not going to see that for a long time.
Yeah. And
maybe taking the step to do that.
I think the thing that Nintendo has too, that Microsoft and Sony, maybe Microsoft more than Sony, don't have, is they have the old guard, which are revered as some of the best talent in the world, teaching these new talented young developers. And we're seeing the crossover now, and Xbox is still relatively new to the console business. 2001, they entered the race at 2001, whereas Nintendo has been around since you know, the company's been around for 130 years, and like they've
Right.
been in the video game industry since, you know, the late 70s, early 80s. Like you have that mean 30 years of experience is nothing to slouch at, you know.
Right.
There's that. It's just, you know, maybe and you know, we've had this discussion on NGR radio and other shows and stuff, but like, you know, I don't want to spend too much time on it because this is a Nintendo show, but I still feel like Microsoft is kind of lost right now. They're lost. They want to do something special for gamers, but they don't know how or where to do it. Like the Scorpio and the Xbox One S and the Windows 10 PC store, like everything they put out now is available on PC. So why would you own an Xbox? And they don't have the you know, the powerful exclusives. Like, you know, Halo used to be the killer app for Xbox, and now it's not. So how do you evolve? How do you evolve Halo, or where do you take it, or what kind of new IP can you push your Xbox to relieve some of the pressures of being Halo?
I
You know,
think
because
so.
like
I think
because like Gears of War obviously did that for Halo for 360, but now both of those franchises are tried and true. How do you give us a new IP with strong development talent behind it to relieve the pressure off of Gears and Halo? Like, how do you do that? Phil Spencer,
well,
like, don't get me wrong, Phil Spencer is an amazing guy. He's turned that ship around, and which is why I support Xbox more than I do PlayStation, because I think Phil Spencer is like, he's the coolest dude out there right now. I truly believe like he is just as much a gamer as he is a businessman, and that's why he kind of understands the platform, and like he's done so much for the Xbox brand since he took over. And like, you know, he's moved the Titanic.
Can I answer,
like that's what it feels like.
Can I answer your question? Let me answer your question with the Microsoft thing. I think Microsoft and Sony has put on made them be like, you know, we're all about power. We're all about the hardcore gamers. We're all about this and that. And I think because they got so focused on that, they lost the spark of what's being fun and how can we develop fun to a variety of audiences. And because of Microsoft being so stuck on power and, you know, trying to be number one and trying to like look cool and stuff, how to make anything fun. When have they taken time to put out different IPs that have different ratings that could touch different people and really make it about fun, really be more creative and expressive? You haven't seen that from Microsoft. So you're stuck in a rut when all you know is power and being technical and trying to be number one. When that's all you know, don't know that that's going to be a continued success. When it fails you, how did you get out? You can't still using you're still using the old business tactics and way of thinking of trying to get back to that number one spot, and it's not working no more.
And like, with, you know, everybody is saying like, you know, Nintendo's never powerful enough, and I think we're at that point now where Nintendo's kind of proven that power isn't everything. And like now more than ever, Nintendo has proven that power isn't everything. And like, yeah, we're not going to get Mass Effect and Call of Duty, but look, we got Zelda, and we're getting Xenoblade, and we're getting Mario. Like, those 3 games alone are right on par with anything the other consoles are putting out. And
those games have connected more to players that are non-Nintendo or who are Nintendo fans than anything else. Guess what? People are still talking about Breath of the Wild, and it's already about been 2 months, going on 2 months in May. Who's still talking about Mass Effect Andromeda? Who's still talking about Gears of War? Like,
I don't hear anybody talking about Mass Effect Andromeda because it's so broken and people are waiting to play it because they want to wait for the patches to fix the game.
Guess what? If anything, the Forza Horizon 3 is coming out with a Hot Wheel DLC, which is cool. I love that they went that. You know, that's so awesome that they did that.
Yeah,
Horizon
and
3, it deserves I think it deserves its Game of the Year nomination. I think it's one of the best arcade racers aside Mario Kart 8. Like it deserves every reward and every rating that it got because
mhm,
it's such a real fun made, like well deserved game. And that's the idea that Microsoft kind of needs to think about. The success that they had with Forza Horizon 3 and the continued success that they're having it, they need to apply that strategy and that way of thinking to other titles, to new
mhm,
IPs. Like
mhm.
you don't have to make everything all about power, because when power fails you, what do you else have to rely on that you've never learned and experienced?
Yeah,
Nintendo never has to rely on power because they could rely on their art style, they could rely on gameplay, they could rely on the limitations making them create.
mhm. Yeah, and like
And
I feel like Nintendo has always had great ideas, and like
mhm,
the Wii was a great idea. It got a lot of people interested in that system. That I mean that system came out in an HD era, and it wasn't HD, and still outsold both the other consoles. Like that's that's a testament to what that system could do. And the DS, like at the same time, like man, those two systems were smart, and those were nowhere near as powerful as the 360 and the
right,
PS3. And then like I think the Wii U, even though it was like it was a great console, was kind of like a half step towards what they kind of are doing now with the Switch, where like yeah, it's the system you can play in your hands and then plug in the TV when you need it. And like, they were going for that two screen thing because, that was a
right.
thing for a minute, was a second screen experience, and they wanted to try to capitalize on that in case something happened. And like now that VR is a thing, like the Switch could easily be VR ready without
Right.
trying to be VR ready. They
And
can
it
they could make that a headset you could slide the screen into, and the Joy Cons are basically the Wii remotes or the Move controllers for PlayStation VR. And like there you go, that's your VR, and you can make the like a Google sized headset thing.
right.
I don't know. I think the Switch is finally at that point where Nintendo, if they have an idea, they can use the system they already have to make that idea work. Whereas,
It,
the Wii U like was that half step
yeah.
with great games, mind you, but still, I yeah,
And my last point for this discussion, if you really are all about visuals and stuff, Nintendo make HD dangerous. Want to know why? Because if you put Pikmin 3 with some of the 360 and even probably even PS4 games of today, Pikmin 3 still looks breathtaking.
yeah. I've never seen a more beautiful piece of fruit in my life.
But guess what? For a game that's on a console like that, compared to something on a PS4, goodness, when Ghost Recon Wildlands still look dated as a PS3 game, that's problematic.
Hmm.
When you looking at the water and the fruit and just the world of Pikmin 3, you be like, good night. How in the heck is this being done on a system like this? Bayonetta 2 still looks wonderful in beautiful in movement. Like you could put that on and be like, wow. And then you just see some of these games like Horizon, it looks beautiful, yeah. But I'm like, Horizon is even limited in its color palette. So yeah, it might look good in 4K with Pro, but I'm like, I still would look I still could look at Xenoblade Chronicles X and still be amazed on what they did with that game over the technical and visual aspects that they did in Horizon.
Hmm.
Don't get me wrong, Horizon looks good, but Xenoblade Chronicles X could go toe to toe with Horizon.
Yeah, and like I said at the top of the show, like my PS4, it was a launch PS4, and it was dying, and I'm sitting here trying to debate whether or not I should get a Pro or not, just to future proof the games so they run better. And like you shouldn't, like I don't want to take away from what the PS4 Pro is capable of doing. Like the 4K stuff and all that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
But I shouldn't be sitting here debating on which SKU of a system I can get just so a game can run on the system.
Yes.
Like I'm sorry, I shouldn't have to do that. Where like, I always know a Nintendo game's going to work on a Nintendo system. Like I just know it. I just know it's going to work. And
yes.
and like I'm at that point where like I don't care about tech specs. I don't care about anything. Like the games I'm playing right now don't require any sort of tech specs at all. Like Mr. Shifty, yeah, there was a patch that came out to fix the frame rate, but that game runs great. Shovel Knight's amazing. Breath of the Wild it's the best game. It's my favorite game since Super Mario 64. I mean, that's all I can say is like that's how amazed and blown away I was with that game. And it's running on, I mean, if you're counting the Wii U version, it's running on 12-year-old hardware at this point. So
Yes.
It's like it doesn't even matter about the tech specs. It all comes back down to, is the game fun to play? Is it visually appealing to you enough to a point where like you can watch it? Like Shovel Knight is not Horizon by any stretch of the imagination, but it's still visually amazing. It's still visually appealing, and it's still fun to play. And there's no technical hiccups. There's no, frame rate issues. There's no loading, 5-minute loading. That was a big thing that came out with Ghost Warrior 3 over the weekend. It was like it takes 5 minutes to load into the game. There's none of that stuff, and it's I don't really know what else to say about it except that like I'm kind of like really frustrated about this PS4 stuff right now, is because like I'm gonna have to wait like 2 or 3 months to replace my PS4 because it's gonna cost me $400, and the fact that I have to try to choose which SKU of the system to buy is really frustrating. Not that I'll be playing it, because I'll be playing all these amazing games on Switch 3DS because Fire Emblem comes out in like 3 weeks. But
yes.
Yeah. I mean, here's another point. Super Metroid, one of the best games of the last 25 years. It's clearly running on Super Nintendo technology, and guess what? It's one of the best games of all time. It's still, I think Zelda is my favorite franchise of all time, but I think Super Metroid is the closest thing to a perfect game you can get to. I still think Super Metroid is that good. I don't know. I have a lot of opinions, and I don't want to take away from like all these other developers and what they're doing, because I still think the technical standpoint of Horizon is beautiful, and I still think, everything that Sony exclusive wise is doing from a visual and technical standpoint is some of the best looking realistic stuff I've ever seen. I still think, for what it was, The Order is still technically the best looking, visually stunning game I've ever seen. But look at that game. It was not fun to play. It was terrible. It was just terrible. So
yeah,
I don't know. There's a lot to pick and choose from games these days, and I know there's the people that just want to get online and shoot stuff, which, to be fair, I had that earlier today. I played some Halo 5 today, and it's just so satisfying blowing away some Covenant aliens. Like, that game still feels really good to play. The story sucks, but that game's still really fun to play. And like, there's still that aspect of games where like not everyone is like us and is going to sit there and break down everything and go through everything, but there's still people that just want to get on and play sports or play shooty bang bang stuff all the time, and that's fine. Bang. Like good on those gamers. And yes, but like, there's people who like me who don't I don't know. I just don't really care about any of that stuff anymore. I just, like, part of me is like kind of dreading the fact that Destiny 2 is coming out this year, because I know how much time I put into Destiny 1, and I really don't feel like putting that much more time into it.
Well, like I said, if it's the rinse and repeat washing machine kind of game, I'm gonna wait. Like I said, I'll wait for the fifth version of that game when all the DLC come out.
I just wait for Metroid Destiny because we've already decided that game's coming out, right?
uh, be like day one. I'll have to take the next day off and be like, you're gonna have to call into work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that game really comes out, you and me are taking like a week off from work and just sitting down and playing it. I'm just gonna bring a bucket into the game room and 25,000 packs of crackers and water and just not leaving ever. But yeah.
But yeah, that's our thoughts.
Yeah. That was a show. That was a show. But I mean, I'm still like, I like to finish our point about like exclusives and power and everything. I don't really think power matters. I think, Phil Spencer did a great job of turning the Xbox ship around, and I think Sony's doing interesting things. I think, I think from that point of view, I think Xbox needs to take a couple pages from Sony, and I think they need to take a couple pages from Nintendo and just sit down and kind of like say, look, we need to make a game that, is going to look stunning on our platform, but we also need to make it fun to play. And, we need to sit down and say, look, gameplay comes first. And, they've already kind of taken that step with Halo. They came out and said that, Master Chief is going to be the focus of Halo going forward. And, they're listening to fans. They're doing what I think a good platform should do, is kind of like, look, we're listening to our fans about our top franchises. So, I mean, Xbox had a lot of work to do, and I still think they have a lot of work to do, but they've really.
Hey, I would say view how Nintendo survived. I think if you're gonna don't even take pages. Heck, take magazine issues, take novels more from Nintendo than Sony, because Nintendo has shown that even if people thought they had downtimes, Nintendo was still up. Some of the craziest stuff that you think that any company who did the same thing should have failed and been out of business. But yet Nintendo, and it's not even about money, Nintendo has been smart about their business. And I think Microsoft has that. Microsoft is smart enough to figure out what they need to do to get out whatever rut that people think that are in. If you I looked at like the article that Game Informer has titled that, I think it's time for us to be done with the console wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I have always said this: enjoy what you still love to play. It might feel like I'm bagging on Microsoft and I'm bagging on Sony and I defend Nintendo. Yeah, it might feel that way, but I'm just like, companies are setting their own path, and we are at a point at a time that we kind of need to walk on as many paths as we can.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like Nintendo, that's fine. You don't have to like Nintendo. There's other avenues to enjoy video games and be happy for that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe hopefully down the line, because I could get on Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo if I want to, or if I need to, and talk bad about them. But then I feel like, why should I even be into video games if all I'm going to do is talk bad about them?
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
I do think it's kind of weird though, like, and this is a last thought before we wrap up the show, but like, I still think like these companies are putting Nintendo style games on their platforms and they're finding some success. Like, I think, Sony's most Nintendo-y type game was Gravity Rush and Gravity Rush 2. Like, those games are, I think if you were to put them in someone's hand and you were to ask who made this and somebody said Nintendo, I think a lot of people would say that. I think, Gravity Rush is a good game and people see that, but like at the same time, people don't buy PlayStation or Xbox for Gravity Rush. They buy it for Call of Duty and Horizon and Halo and
I feel like those are the gamers that's missing out, really.
Mm-hmm. Man,
did
you play Gravity Rush yet? Have you played it yet?
I need to buy it. I haven't played it yet.
Gravity Rush is if anybody out there listening owns a PlayStation, definitely check out Gravity Rush. I guess you could.
Oh, I said I want to play Patapon.
The remastered version, I guess, of Gravity Rush 1, and then if you like it, to move on to 2, because I think 2 does a lot of cool, interesting things to that formula. But yeah, Gravity Rush is awesome. If you're looking for a Nintendo style game on a PlayStation console, that's one to get.
I want to play Loco Roco and Patapon. I love that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I want to finish some Super Metroid. So I think we're gonna wrap the show here. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Ed, where can we find you?
Before we wrap up, and before we find out, to end the Nintendo port thing, with Wii U ports being on the Switch, I'm down for it.
Oh yeah, I guess that was what we were originally talking about, wasn't it?
Yes. I mean, but you can find me on Twitter.
Oh, I was just gonna say I want them to make the Switch boxes look like the Wii U boxes, but like just like have like a Wii U Essentials collection on Switch, and then there'd be like every 2 or 3 months they'd release like 3 or 4 titles, like make it almost feel like Xbox Live Arcade style thing where they promote like a month or 2 of just great Wii U games coming to Switch in a downtime. I don't know. I think that'd be cool. But anyway, sorry. Here we go.
Yes.
Ed, where can we find you on the internet?
You guys can find me on Twitter at that Richard Code. You can hear my podcast, Optional Opinion, at SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, and other podcast apps. I am going to be updating the Anonymous Radio Network.podbean.com. Did that, lady. I got a lot to do. You can also hear me on World 101 podcast at shoutsengine.com. We talked to Tom Happ, creator and developer of Axiom Verge. So do listen to that. We do have a contest running. So if you want to know more about that, join our World 101 Facebook page and find out the rules on how you can win maybe a copy of Axiom Verge. We can't tell you what it is. You have to come and find out and listen. But it was a good discussion talking to him. So yeah. Who's still on Wii U, you can find me Optional Opinion, all one word together on Wii U. I'm sorry, everybody. I need to update you guys on that. I will put up my 3DS friends code for that. I haven't been lately, and I will, once I get my Nintendo Switch, I will update that too, so you guys can join me with some Nintendo Switch games, because I have a big catalog that I need to catch up.
Get that Switch, Ed. Get it.
Yes.
Get it. You can find me at Corey Hudson and HD on Twitter, Corey and HD on Instagram. You can find all of our shows and content on ngrradio.com. Ed just wrote a couple reviews up there for Wonder Boy and Horizon, so check those out. I have a couple things coming out later this week and this weekend for your reading pleasure. You can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/NGR Radio Podcast. You can also follow the NGR Radio Network on Twitter at NGR Radio Podcast.
And also join us on our Power Block Facebook page.
Oh, yeah. You can join the Power Block Facebook group too. Facebook.com/group/Nintendo Power Block. You can find our group there as well. So we're going to try to be more active in there. There's so many groups to keep track of.
So many groups. Yes.
We are looking to set up a NGR Radio /Nintendo Power Block Mario Kart 8 Deluxe tournament on Switch. So stay tuned for those, that information as well. Trying to wait as long as I can until Ed gets a Switch so we can kind of do it together. So chop chop, Ed. Chop chop.
Yes.
Chop chop. Thank you so much for watching.
Something just came to my One last thing, or something just came to my mind that I'm going to actually ask you guys on the Pod Block Facebook page, and I kind of want to see what you guys think about it. Corey's just like, what, huh, what? But it's mostly a question about um, Fighter 2 is coming up. I kind of want to hear everybody what they think on how did you learn how to play Street Fighter experience. So I kind of want to know how you guys learn how to play a title on a Nintendo game. I want to know. I think that would be a cool idea. So
does it count?
Check out the Facebook page.
Does it count if you never really learned how to play Street Fighter and you just mashed the buttons the whole time?
Yes. If that's the way that you learn how to play Street Fighter, let me know. Let us know. I want to know about that.
Pro tip: don't jump. Apparently, that's bad. Apparently, jumping is bad in Street Fighter. Oh man,
jumping without attacking is bad.
Yeah, that too. Well, thank you so much for watching and/or listening. And until next week, we love you.